Is this thing working? Are we live? It looks like we're live. What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. So if you are new to my channel, welcome to my little slice of YouTube. This channel is pretty much just a background noise generator, typically talking about motorcycles, sometimes about cars, engine-related stuff, and such. And in this chat, we're going to be talking about, well, it's going to be a follow-up to a post-ride review that I just did on the Suzuki Busa. And boy, did that bike impress. And for a lot of reasons that may not be the first thing you think of when you think Busa. So at any rate, guys, look, if it's your first time hanging out, you like what you see, toss me a like, toss me a subscribe. Means a ton to me. Helps a lot with those algorithms out there. And one other thing too, the live show is my opportunity to interact with you guys directly. If you've got questions, comments, go ahead and hit us up in the chat. And the live chat can get a little bit disjointed. I get it. Most of my videos are disjointed. Let's all be honest here. But the reality is that you never know where these live shows are going to go. So we'll start talking about something and then it'll just kind of zing off into Lord only knows what. So at any rate, let me check in with some folks that are in the chat. Ryan is in. What is up? Ryan's liking the Busa ride. Very good. I did too. DM is in. I got the ball guy with the specs and the flex. I like it. Ryan and DM are checking in. Busa power, baby. Okay, so here's what I want to talk about as it pertains to the Busa. Again, this is just me kind of expanding on the post-ride review. If you're new to the ride reviews, yeah, I will have a tendency to kind of ramble a little bit. These are just brain droppings. As I'm actually riding the bike, you're hearing me talking about what I'm experiencing for the first time. And the new drinking game is, how many times did he say smooth in that freaking ride-along video? I know, but look, here's the first takeaway from the Busa, and it wasn't the power. It wasn't the seating position, the riding position, the quick shifter that I yammered on way too much about on that part of it too. None of that is what you would have run away with, the overwhelming impression, because look, you come to the conversation of Busa, you know it's got a lot of power. But there's two things that I took away with this bike that I was not at all expecting. The first was how, well, smooth, how easy the bike was to ride. That motorcycle, excuse me, over here snacking, and I still got some snack in the throat. Anyway, that motorcycle has got to be one of the easiest going motorcycles I've ever ridden to ride aggressively. And what I mean by that is in just absolute stop and go traffic, which I did have the opportunity to have the bike in, it was so perfectly fueled. There was nothing in the throttle response that was jerky. There was nothing about it that was overwhelming. There was nothing about the bike that was remarkable. And that is the remarkable thing about it. I think a lot of folks would come into the conversation of Busa, or really any of these true hyper sports bikes, but I'm talking about the Busa for this one. It is so easy to ride that you can be tricked into forgetting that this motorcycle will accelerate the way that it accelerates. And Ryan's saying, like I said before, the Busa has military thrust at any throttle position or RPM. That is a great way to put it. Because unlike, say, a middleweight sport bike where there is a lack of power and then a lot of power, that makes it exciting. And in a way, unlike a leader bike, where modern leader bikes just act like big 600s anyway. Let's just call it for what it is. The Busa is a completely different animal, equal to the task in terms of it, well, probably actually a little bit better under certain circumstances as far as acceleration than the leader bike. but it's at those partial throttle inputs where there's not any sense of urgency about the bike because it's just not working that hard. It does the same work as one of the very high strung leader bikes does, but it does it in such a nonchalant way. It's just pushes you down the road without what feels like any effort. Now, true enough, the Hayabusa has a much lower red line than any of the modern leader class sport bikes. But it's 33% larger. So you've got another 300 cc's of displacement, but it only revs to realistically around 10,000 RPM. So if you look at it by the numbers, yeah, it's got 300 more cc's, but it's revving 33% less. It's kind of sucking in the same amount of air. But up to that point, it's so much larger of an engine that you've got 30% more torque right up until it's time to shift. But you're going to need it. The Hayabusa is heavy. But you'd never know it by riding the thing. Look, the Hayabusa is in a weird place with me in my head right now because there was nothing about that bike that screamed 540 pounds dry, 580 pounds wet. The motorcycle that I rode was bone stock. Nothing was done to it except the windscreen. And one of the first takeaways with that bike was just how absolutely lively it was. And truth be told, maybe it's because the bike sits lower. Maybe it's because you sit more in the bike than on the bike, the way that you do on a leader bike. That initial moment of inertia being lowered to the ground, maybe that's what helps it. Look, I don't know what kind of voodoo wizardry science is going into this thing. All I know is that when I rode that bike, unless I was in the parking lot doing the MSF course, which if you haven't seen the videos at the very, very end of the video itself, the ride along, I didn't know. It didn't feel anything like that. And I know I say, and everybody does that rides these bikes, it feels so much lighter than it really is. But guys, in this case, the Hayabusa felt smaller. It's not that it felt lighter. To go along with how much lighter it felt, it did feel like it was a much more compact motorcycle. Eerily enough, and I didn't mention this in either one of the videos, but you guys have seen me on ride-along videos on my Daytona, that 1998 T595. It's got a 955cc triple. The funny thing about those two motorcycles and a weird similarity is that the riding position itself feels practically identical. So it does have a very much old school riding position, old school kind of feel to it in that respect, where the rear sets are not very high. It's still a sport bike. I mean, they're set back, obviously, but it's not like a true sport bike, almost like a sport touring bike. Bit of a stretch to get to the bars over that big old gas tank. I'm telling you, the way that that bike got down the road and the way that it was so docile, even when I was pouring the coal to it a little bit, it was so effortless. And again, just kind of so matter of fact with the way that it was putting down the power that, look, if you've never ridden one, these are some things that you would almost have to know before you rode one, because number one, it is both nowhere near as scary to ride, but yet every bit as powerful as you would have expected it to be. One other thing, and if you watch the video, you'll notice when I'm getting onto the freeway, I make this loop and I go underneath an underpass and I'm getting back onto the highway. When I'm getting onto the highway, by the way, 12 o'clock on that speedometer is 100. But as I'm fanning the bike through the gears, you'll notice that I'm never at wide open throttle. That was about maybe half, at most maybe 65-ish% of throttle input as I'm accelerating. But after about third gear, that's really not much more than half throttle. And you're just kind of banging the gears and getting nowhere near red line. I think I was maybe shifting at 8,000 RPM. So I was just anyway, the point that I'm getting to with that is I've got the bike, I'm not on the side of the tire, I'm just going up a right-hander. And you'll notice the front gets a little bit light while I've got it on the side of the tire. That is exactly what the bike did before. Now, keep in mind, this is technically my second ride of that bike. The first ride, that's when the camera flew off, or almost flew off the helmet. I was holding on to it. But that's exactly what that bike did before. A little bit of a head shake, power through it, sits right back down, and it just goes onto the highway as stable and as happy as you could possibly imagine a motorcycle to be. The way that I'll describe the Hayabusa is, in a lot of ways, the exact same way that I described the old school Dodge Challenger Demon. It is got to be one of the happiest machines you could ever pilot. It's weird. It doesn't know that it's fast. It doesn't know that it's a badass, so to speak. It's just here to play and have fun. But the thing about the Busa, again, the same way with the Challenger, very heavy, both of them, lots of power, both of them, handle eerily good, both of them. It is just the happiest experience you could ever have. And it's marketed to be, oh, you're badass, but it's like playing with a big Rottweiler puppy. You know, it's just, it's kind of funny that way. So when you hear guys talk about motorcycles, the Busa, it's the fast, the turbos and all this stuff. You can do all of that to the Busa, and it loves it. And it's a, 400 and whatever horsepower on that thing is easy kind of money if you listen to what everybody says about it. But that's not the whole takeaway from that bike. It's just that at every other throttle input where you're pouring any kind of throttle to it, it just whooshes forward. Again, this is something that if you come from a sport bike background and you've never ridden a Hayabusa and all you look at are the spec sheets, it would never dawn on you that the bike that you're trying to compare to, the Hayabusa, it's fast by default, but it really is just a sport touring bike. It's not, I mean, you could carve up canyons with it. You could do everything with it. It's just that, I'll tell you this, to me, it had no right to handle as well as it did. It was just, again, one of the happiest, most laid back bikes I'd ridden ever. And look, I love my GSX-R 1000. There's stuff that bike can do that the Hayabusa just simply can't. I think somebody had asked me, which would be my favorite. And it's a hard answer. What would be my favorite out of the bikes? The Hayabusa for me would be more maybe versatile, because it'll kind of do a little bit of everything, including touring, if you were so inclined to do such a thing with that bike. Long distances would be monumentally easier with the Hayabusa than it would be on any of the actual true track-oriented sport bikes. And the way that I described it was, and it's just real talk. My GSX-R 1000 would walk it down in a roll race, but I'd be playing catch up, admittedly. That initial torque hit's going to put, even on my bike, which is decidedly strong for a GSX-R 1000, I would still have to reel them in, but reel them in I would. My 750 would just dance all around that thing like a caffeinated terrier. And so, you can't compare the Busa to the 750 in terms of handling. And it's kind of almost not even fair to compare it to the leader class bike, say like an R1 ZX10, GSX-R 1000. it's hard to compare it to those bikes just because of how far those bikes have come, while the Busa has stayed rather stagnant with the amount of power that it makes and how it puts down power. Again, like I was saying before, that Busa has a 33% larger engine, but it only revs to 10,000 RPM. It revs to 33% less than the leader bikes. And let's be real here, leader bikes weighing 440 pounds versus 580 pounds. I mean, that's like having another human being on your leader bike when it comes to power to weight comparisons. So, I think that, I don't know, if you were to have a garage big enough and a bankroll big enough to have all three, you would almost have to have the trifecta because of where the Hayabusa sits. It's in such a unique place. It really does warrant its own category. It's not a sport bike, not the way that a modern, pick a leader bike, any of the middleweights or whatever. But I will say this, they're not cheap, but damn, I mean, look at what all you get for your money. So if you could only have one, it'd be tough. It depends on what you value the most. If you value comfort over outright performance and you've got the money, then the Busa is the smart play. If you are more into a lively motorcycle experience and you're not really so concerned with outright power, and there's a lot of guys that it's actually, the power is more of an aversion. It can be more of a distraction. GSXR 750, hands down, best in class in that respect. But you cannot say that the GSXR 1000 is like a compromise between the two, where you get handling but the power to go along with it, because that thing is a monster and an apex predator in its own ocean, right? Like, you can't go any higher than leader class sport bike. That's where it stops. So when we're talking about outright performance, that's why I'm saying, man, the Hayabusa just offers so many good riding experiences, whether it's handling, touring. You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. I figured it out. I have figured it out. You have witnessed genius just erupt right in real time. Okay, you know how I talk about the adventure bikes being sport utility bikes? The Hayabusa, and by association, the ZX14, these are the hot wagons of the motorcycle. If you're into cars, this is like the E63 AMG estate, right? It's the BMW M5 estate. It's the Audi S7 estate. That's what this thing is. It's different because it's not really sport utility, but you could tour with it. It's got way more performance from a power to weight ratio standpoint. It's not dedicated one way or another in terms of off-road or on-road or trying to be a compromise. It is solely for the street. That's what it is. It is a high performance estate wagon. If you needed something that could just eat up a lot of miles, be comfortable, and get out there and play when you want to play, or if you just want to be sedate, it'll do that too. That's what the Hayabusa can do. And I think that if you have that kind of mentality and you look at it from that point of view, that bike makes a whole lot more sense. And that way it's easier to say, yeah, it's got all this power, but it's also got the comfort and a bit of nostalgia in a way too to go along with it. Because let's not forget, guys, 1999 is when the Hayabusa was let loose on us. This is a part that I didn't put in the post-ride review because this would have just kind of gunked up that. I try to keep the post-ride reviews to around 5 to 8 minutes long. So anyway, the Hayabusa is 25, 26 years old now, and not a lot has changed, at least in terms of how the bike gets down the road. I get it, camshafts and all that, but And I know that the newer bikes have got the smaller profile cams. They don't make the power out the big end like the older bikes do once you start modifying them. But I almost wonder if the Hayabusa is immune in some respects to outright modification. I'm not talking about throwing like some slip-ons on the bike and just having a good time, but in this case, I'll be honest with you, I'd leave it stock, throw some slip-ons on the thing and just ride it. That's how good that bike was for me. I didn't feel like I did with other bikes, like I just had to uncork it. Maybe a reflash just to de-restrict it a little bit, but I would almost not even want to do that for fear that I would infringe upon how good the fueling is already with the stock bike. So again, if you're asking me which one do I like the most, y'all know me. It's whatever bike I just got off of is the one that I like the most. But I can say this, I did tell Hunter over at the dealership, I said, look, man, do not give me the keys to that bike again. Because I don't have any bikes I can trade in or that I'm willing to trade in to put that one in the garage. It's that good. And it's like keep it away from me. It's just, I got to say, of the bikes that I've ridden for review, there's been a few of them that I could see myself spending a lot of time with long-term. And a lot of times they can be quirky bikes. Like one of the bikes that I really did like a lot was the V-Strom 800. That's one of the bikes that just about came home with me. That Royal Enfield, that real pretty British Racing green Continental GT, that bike came so close to coming home with. I went to the dealership to go buy it and it sold. Okay. So I don't know if the bike dodged a bullet or I did, but that bike was gonna come home with me. I didn't call anybody. I didn't ring ahead. I just was like, man, I'm in the area. I had a meeting in a literally a block away from the dealership. And when I got done with that, ran over to the dealership, found out the bike sold. I think it was 2 days before. So anyway, let me check in with you guys real quickly. I'll just sit over here and yammer on, and I want to make sure that I am interacting with you guys. Skids is in. What is going on, man? Ryan's checking in with Skids. DM saying, to me, the Busa is a sport touring bike. It does all well from canyon carbon to freeways. Agree with you 100%. 100% agree with that. BDE saying Busa is a big, comfy couch. It's a big, comfy couch that a couch will haul ass. You know, the weird thing about it, I kind of felt the same way. Oh, okay. So I did kind of touch on this point. BD, I'm glad you reminded me of this. So coming into this initial ride of the Hayabusa, I was about the Hayabusa. I was not a fan of that bike. Let me explain. Okay, so the Hayabusa to me, again, coming from a sport bike background, the Hayabusa to me was just it was a one-trick pony. It was a Scud missile that it was just there to be fast. That was it. It was built to be stable. It was not built to handle the way that I'm used to motorcycles handling and the way that I had it in my head. And this is why I really wanted to ride the bike, because I wanted to kind of prove myself wrong in a way, or at least dispel whatever rumors I'd created about that bike myself. But to me, it was all of that. In fact, to me, the Hayabusa stock was a complete and total waste of time. To me, I looked at the Hayabusa as a clean slate. Like, okay, you're going to buy the Hayabusa, but you're already going to have all these other parts ready to go so that when the bike gets here, you don't have to suffer the indignity of riding a stock Hayabusa motorcycle. Damn, was I wrong about that. And it was so wrong on every point too. Like it was, and also too, I was expecting it to be a bit more rowdy than it was. Maybe I don't know where I was getting my ideas from, but everything I thought about the Hayabusa coming into my initial ride of that bike was proven wrong. It's fast, yeah, but it is so easily manageable and so easy to ride. Okay, that got squashed. It's going to handle like a turd. It's just not going to, it's going to be slow to turn it. Guys, this bike felt great in terms of handling. And again, when I had the bike a little bit on the side of the tire, you can see me catch a little bit of a head shake, just power through it. The first time I did that, it was a little bit worse than that in third gear. I just rolled into the throttle. The bike stood up, sat right back down, and kept going, just like my GSXR 1000 will do. And so but it did it softly though. It didn't do it with the that my 1000 does. Again, it's modified and all of that, but it was just so calm. And it was like, oh, here. It was like like a big old auntie just here. I just launched a freaking lip missile right into my camera. Anyway, it's like a big old, big booty, big titty auntie just kind of picking you up and just redirecting you. And that was that again. So again, everything that I thought about the Hayabusa was, I was course corrected on that bike. But the comfort part of it, 100% agree. That bike is incredibly comfy to ride. Yeah, it's like having an extra third of an engine. That is exactly right. BD saying, I prefer the leader bikes, but I'd roll a Busa any day. I tell you what, talking about with the weight. Yep. And you do need a lot of money to thin her up. But see, here's the thing. This is why I was taught you. So the Busa is kind of a weird thing. It's almost like, in this case, it's almost like all or nothing. It's either leave it stock and enjoy the bike stock and use it for what it is. Maybe throw some slip-ons on it because, you know, that's what we do. But leave it alone, though. Outside of that, don't worry about a tune or anything. Just maybe de-restrict it. But you get the idea. Don't try to throw the kitchen sink at something that's already weighs as much as the house, right? Or you've got to go just complete nuts with it. And I mean, everything's got to be lightweight, yank. I mean, you're going to be spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on the Busa to lighten it up to where it could be, say, after 150, 160 miles an hour, able to keep up with a leader bike. I think the Busa's good up to, just based on how I was running that bike versus how my leader bike runs, that bike versus Red Alert, it would be a little bit, the Busa would get out on me. And again, my GSXR 1000 is eerily strong for a GSXR 1000. But even still, it would get out a little bit on my 1000. And then after that, it's not going to be long before I've already collected that Busa and put it behind me. But that is outright performance when you're just absolutely in it to win it. At every other aspect of how you would ride that bike, the Busa's just got it, man. It's got it. And there's an it factor with that bike too, where again, it's you barely roll into the throttle in any gear. Oh, so this is one thing. If you haven't had a chance to see the ride along video, there's a spot where I'm going up an overpass. The thing about that overpass that is not really apparent is that it's kind of an aggressive, like the angle is, the slope is fairly aggressive on that overpass. And I'm in 6th gear and I'm just kind of moping along here with traffic, waiting to get kind of through some traffic. But what it dawned on me, I looked down at the tack while I was talking about, I don't know, something about it being smooth probably. And I look down and it's at 3,000 RPM. And I'm just going, oh, I got to talk about this. And you just kind of roll into the throttle. And at 3,000 RPM, the thing just chugs forward. But it was not, the fueling was so good and everything about it was so smooth. There you go. I'm going to wear that word completely out. That once you had it in a gear, you just kind of left it there. And so again, without any drama, being quiet, you're sitting more in it, you're sitting lower. There's so much to that bike that just made it feel and do things that I wasn't really expecting. Now, granted, I wouldn't trade my GSXR 1000 for a Hayabusa. At least not mine. I mean, me and Jixer Thal, we're like this, man. We're just super tight. But I got to tell you, like I really was trying to figure out a way to make room for that gray one that I rode too. That's the other thing. I don't know what it is about that particular bike, but me and that bike are tight too, though. So I don't know. DM saying, I'm not giving up my leader bike, but I do need both. Yeah, you and I are rowing the same boat on that one. Oh, skids. Yeah, the little 250cc Fireblade. So there was a point in time in Japan where there were quite a few of the 250cc screamers. And I think pretty much everybody had their hand in that. And then there was a law about taxes and licenses and something like that. And then when that got dropped, the 250s went away. And if you can find them, seriously, if you can find one of those bikes, they are coveted by the people that own them. And yeah, 18,000 RPM, 16 was a low revving 4-cylinder 250 back then. Oh, I just messed up big time here. Let me scoot back over here. Dang it. How did I do that? I just accidentally blasted through everybody's comments. So I'm trying to rewind up here. Bullet is in. Hell's all. Ryan saying, how big is its power band? Dear Lord, 18,000 like a damn weed eater. Actually, it's a lot more than a weed eater. Here's the funny thing. Yeah, it's basically like 13 or 14,000 to 18,000. BDE saying the ZX400 would be a great track bike. It'd be a phenomenal track bike. A ZX400 would be really a real good endurance bike. I think if I were to campaign an endurance bike at MSR, it would probably be one of the 400s because it's easy on tires. It's super light. You're not muscling the thing around. And over time, that would make a difference. Skid saying turbo boost, extended swing arm. You'll definitely be at ludicrous speed. You know, the funny thing is that, you know, I was riding that bike. I never felt, what's the right way to put this? I could see how it, you know, that bike, small turbo, extended swing arm, all of that. Yes, I know it'll put in work and I know that it's fast in that respect, but it's kind of a, I don't want to call it what am I trying to say here? It's that bike is so much better than just that Fate. I'm telling you, I mean, I'm literally, if you wanted to throw boxes on that thing, you know, like a sport utility bike style, you know, the bag, because you can get them for that bike because it is a sport touring bike after all. The you know, the hyper station wagon of the motorcycling world. I mean, you could, and it would be an amazing long distance type of bike. You could spend a couple hours on that thing and not have any real fatigue at all. BD saying turbo 1073 Gixxer Thal. That's a, yeah, that when fast ain't fast enough. BD saying in 01 had 360 to the tire. It was fun to jockey. I could imagine so. And I'll tell you what, you know, that's the crazy thing about, well, especially with the Suzukis. I don't know what the deal has always been like this, though, with Suzuki, that they always took so well to modification. Let's see. Sam is in. What is kicking? Oh, Bullet said he likes the comparison. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just such a good, it's just a cool thing, you know, when you see them. And that's the thing. I mean, look, when you see a Busa, that bike is it's just so much greater than the sum of its parts. Sam's liking his truck, but went down the rabbit hole of Marketplace. I tell you what, I have to stay the hell away from Marketplace. Oh, DM saying tuning the Busa on a dyno really helped mine. It got even better. I can only imagine. I could imagine that bike just de-restricted with some slip-ons. I think that would be a real happy place for a bike like a Hayabusa. It's either that or a little bit more purpose-driven, you know, like a roll race setup on that Busa. I think would be a lot of fun too. Skid's saying his buddy here has his drag bike Busa parked next to his road glide. He drags it out from time to time. Very nice, sick looking bike. I can only imagine it is. But he's saying 05 GSX-R 1000, 21 XR 650, good bike. 22 DRZ 400, also very good bike. 24 Street Glide, probably one of the most eye-opening bikes that I've ridden lately was the 24 Street Glide that I rode. It's trying to get a 25 GSX-R 1000. I'll tell you what, I'm loving mine. Skid saying definitely can't have just one, right? No, they're like Pringles, trust me. And I mean, it's like you get one and then that one gets lonely. So you need to get it a friend. Well, then the friend, you know, you don't want it. You want it to, the two, they, you know, get into arguments. So sometimes you need a break. So you get them 3 and then you get them 4. That's just how it ends up working with bikes. Same thing. Oh, Skid's hanging out with BDE. Yep. 24 Street Glide. I tell you what, awesome bike. That's another bike. That's another motorcycle that, much in the same way that the Hayabusa did, really changed my mind about a particular bike in general. By the way, I saw the bike that I did the review on today. There was a guy that bought it and he was taking it in for service. So I got to see that bike that I rode. It sold not too long after I did the review on that bike. Skiz just sold his 950 Super Sports. Fun bike, just changing up my garage a bit. Very cool. Tim's checking in. Say I had 2 Gen 2 Hayabusas for 8 years and loved every day of it. I had to sell it because of family stuff 3 years ago, but I got a GSX-R 750 off a family member cheap 12 months ago, and I'm loving the 750. Very nice. 750, huge fan of that bike over here. That was the bike that I absolutely regretted letting go. And when I got my new bike, my new GSX-R 750, I can't tell you how much more fun I've had with that bike than I did with my original 750. That's the one I was doing track days with and all that kind of good stuff. GM saying that boost will be sold by Monday. It's because your vids are so good. I'm pushing some bikes through the dealership right now. Oh, and that one just hit the website. And okay. Look, just like when I was working at Pikes, there are some cars that you just hate to see that leave the shop. Like you can't keep all of them, right? Right? Or can you? I don't know. Can you? Maybe. Anyway, you can't keep all of them. And for me, that gray Hayabusa is one of the ones where I'm going to be a little bummed when it goes. Only because it's such a sweetheart of a bike. And again, it's a bike that changed the way that I saw that particular motorcycle. I was happy to see the Street Glide get sold. That dude loves that bike. BD saying there's great hard bags for the Busa and they fit helmets in them. Very cool. I remember seeing that. You know what I do also remember is I remember that one of the local motorcycle cops used one as his cop bike. DM saying spike the like. B needs another bike. Yes. All the likes. Oh yeah. And if you've made it this long, we are 40 minutes into this. If you've made it this long, and you're new here and you haven't subscribed, or say you've been around a while and you haven't subscribed, subscribe. It helps out a ton with the algorithms and how YouTube works. I don't know how all that actually goes into helping, but I know that it does, and I would appreciate it if you did. Anyway, but guys, look, the bottom line is this: that Busa, it means a whole lot. It means something different to me now. That bike took on a completely different complexion now that I've had a chance to spend some time with it again. And what I've come away with that bike is, look, you know, again, they say don't ever meet your idols, don't ever meet your heroes or whatever. And again, I mean, just like you guys, if y'all are into bikes and, you know, you remember seeing the Busa in movies, you remember seeing it, you know, just in general, the legend that is around that bike, with it being literally put out into the world to be the fastest thing on two wheels. And the Gen 2 absolutely just settled that argument like you would not believe. All of that, yeah, its reputation precedes it. DM, damn son, thank you. So DM apparently caught on. I was about to wrap it up. He goes, get out there and do something cool for someone. They might need it more than you know because they have a bike. Technically, that's enabled, and I encourage that behavior. Yeah, thank you so much for the contribution, brother. Thank you very, very much. How do I thank you very, very, man, I don't even know what to say other than thank you so much for the support, my man. That is so cool. Thank you. Skid saying, it appears your channel is growing, seeing more and more commenting and new names popping up. Yes. So thank you all so much. You guys that are new to the channel. We've got some vets that have been around here for a long time, but you know, for you new folks, thank you all so very much for coming by. And by the way, I've got to send a huge shout out to the rest of the world, guys. We've got folks in 47 or 48 countries now that are watching Two Wheel Tuesday. So thank you all so much. Whatever part of the planet you're at, wish you much love. And I'll always remind you to get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And I mean that sincerely. That's something that, you know, you never know what folks are going through. You never know what kind of battles that they're fighting behind a smile. There can be so much more going on. A lot of times that's just a facade, and just a simple act of kindness, saying thank you, yes sir, yes ma'am, opening the door for somebody, something little. It might not mean anything to you, but it can mean the absolute world to somebody. You just don't know until you do a kind thing how much it can mean to somebody. And with that, guys, thank you all so much for hanging out. DM again, wow, brother, thank you so much for that. Skid saying, say a prayer for our men and women in uniform, as always, for sure, and thank them for their service. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do here today. But with that, guys, I do have to wrap it up. I'm going to try to catch y'all again on Saturday, doing a little bit of motor chat. I may have the GSXR 750 back over at Stubbs, having the exhaust installed. I've got it already pulled apart. I've got the actuator out. I've got the O2 out. I've got the body panel off, but I ain't about to mess with a cooling system because I make a mess of that every time, and I just ain't got time for it. Plus, it'll give me an opportunity to give them some pub too. They always do a great job, so I can't wait for that. But all that means is that we're going to have more ride-along videos with the GSXR 750 now with exhaust, which I'm super stoked to bring you guys that. But with that, I got to wrap it up. Listen, guys, thank y'all so much. Love each and every one of y'all. Would not do this without you. And we hope to see you on the next one. Take care, guys.